DRC health facilities overwhelmed by spike in COVID-19 cases. And in sports, members intensify training and preparation for Olympic Games. Good evening once again and welcome to UBC News at 8. I'm Lorraine Masika Kazimoto and Elizabeth Nakakoni on Sign Language. Now starting off with our first headlining story this evening, newly appointed and vetted Minister of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance Dr. Chris Baryomunsi has vowed to embrace teamwork in delivering national service. Baryomunsi's commitments follow his recent appointment alongside that of former FDC Vice President Joyce Sebugwao as his State Minister, whom he expresses readiness to work with. Our reporter Henry Okurut reports Dr. Baryomunsi made the remarks shortly after appearing before the Appointments Committee of Parliament for vetting. Take a look.
As early as 8 a.m., recently appointed ministers started arriving for the scheduled vetting process at Parliament. These were to appear before the Appointments Committee for either approval or denial of their presidential assignments. Dr. Chris Baryomunsi was until last week the State Minister for Housing. He now awaits his approval to take on the Information, Communications Technology and National Guidance docket.
My belief is that we need to strengthen the spokesmanship of government so that the policies of government, the interventions of government, the work being done by government can efficiently be communicated for Ugandans and people out there to know what the government does.
Bearing in mind that his appointed junior minister, Joyce Sebugwao, came from the FDC, an opposition political party, Baryomunsi is ready to embrace teamwork.
All of us will struggle in this earthly life to make a contribution. So if you can make a contribution as a minister, so be it. You play your role, others will come and therefore we receive her. I have no problem. I am actually waiting for her. If both of us are cleared by the committee and we are sworn in, then we shall start as ministers in the ICT with high energy, with enthusiasm, ready to serve all of you.
It is this similar spirit that other vetted ministers carry towards service delivery. As Ruth Nankabirwa pledges commitment to service in the Energy Ministry, her predecessor, Mary Goreti Kitutu, allays fears of the Karimojong in her ability to serve.
Now, to the people of Karamoja, I want to allay their fears. I saw some saying that ministers go there and they work like tourists. Kitutu is not a tourist. I am a field person, and all people know wherever I go, I make an impact.
All the commitments in my sector are not personal commitments. These are government programs. My work is to make sure that all of us in this ministry are on course and that we are speaking the same language and that we do not have personal interest but the interest of Ugandans.
In the Agriculture Ministry, Frank Tumwebaze is replacing Vincent Vamranga Chisempija, who is moving to the Ministry of Defense. As both await their fate after vetting, they pledge improved service, with Tumwebaze decrying underutilization of land.
So the question is, what if we doubled our utilization capacity of the land, let's say to 70%? That means our yields would go up, our exports would go up. So that's one area I want to focus on.
Everywhere we have challenges. As a developing country, we are not there yet. So I will try as much as possible to support His Excellency the President to make sure that whatever he wants to see done with the army is really achieved.
Vetting of new ministers started on Monday afternoon after the overwhelming parliamentary approval of the Vice President and Prime Minister. Others who have been vetted include Judith Nabakova for lands, Hillary Onek for disaster preparedness, Jeje Odongo for foreign affairs, and Matia Kasaija for finance. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Uganda Debt Network is criticizing a government's debt management strategy for the financial year 2021-2022 for not considering strategic and sustainable repayment interventions. Uganda's total public debt hit a record of 65.82 trillion Uganda shillings as of December 2020, up from 49 trillion Uganda shillings in 2019, which is a 16.82 trillion Uganda shillings increment due to increased government borrowing. Mark Wadulo with the report.
As at December 2020, Uganda's debt to GDP ratio stood at 49% and is projected to hit the 50% threshold by the next financial year starting 1st July 2021. UDN is therefore concerned that Uganda's debt is now growing at a much higher rate than the economic growth.
Anyone, of course, would be concerned about this rapid debt growth against a GDP of $35 billion in 2020, and of course the missed middle income status targets in 2017 at first, and then of course in 2020. The country must deal with key binding constraints, the runaway corruption, execution issues, and also look at new strategies to sustainably manage our debt as a country.
While embezzlement and a lack of holistic accountability for public resources is deterring economic growth, civil society argues that government has in the recent financial year sustained some wasteful public expenditure allocations coupled with high debt repayment proportions against a meager resource envelope.
And you are parting with about 12 trillion shillings. Your own domestic revenues are about 20 trillion. So of 20 trillion, you are removing over 12 trillion for purposes of debt repayment. I think that's not good mathematics, definitely it's ugly.
They assert that government ought to be more aggressive against runaway corruption and time cost overruns in public investment projects if it is to manage the surging debt burden. Take, for example, the Kampala Northern Bypass project.
This project commenced in 2004, but it continues to undermine grossly Uganda's GDP growth because we see it is still incomplete since 2004, and yet it should have by this time contributed to the debt expansion and economic opportunities foregone, because we continue to spend on this project even when it was supposed to have been completed some time back.
Uganda's total public debt surged to 65.82 trillion Ugandan shillings as at December 2020, a 35% rise from a year earlier, fueled by fresh borrowing to cover revenue shortfalls as measures taken to combat the coronavirus, which stifled tax collections. Wadulo Makanold, UBC News.
A report titled AfriChild, conducted by Makerere University, has spotted out parents as the main lead agents of the increasing child labor and abuse. The revelation was made during the virtual launch of the report, where lead researchers appealed to parents to equip their children with life skills. Take a look.
University.
According to a recent research conducted by AfriChild Uganda, 80% of the child abuse cases are caused by parents who have failed to equip their children with life skills during the COVID-19 lockdown that has seen many schools closed as part of the measures to counter the pandemic. Many parents have exposed their children to mental and physical abuses. At the launch of the virtual report on child abuses, the Vice Chancellor at Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, challenged parents to improve on their parenting skills.
We believe that we can improve on this so that we can research and publish about our issues ourselves.
The Commissioner Child Affairs at the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Chateka Mondo, advised parents to change their attitude towards children.
Africa needs strong mechanisms and systems to be able to deliver on the perpetrators are mostly the parents. The people expected to be the first protectors and defenders of the rights of the children.
And we're going to use this research more to train these parasocial workers that the issues which are now, which you need to pay attention to by this research, are the parents.
Parents or caretakers have not built a constructive relationship with the child. And there's a blame game, there's a life after this lockdown, and they need, if they want to pursue their goals, they need to get back to school.
But once they're empowered with those life skills, even in the time of lockdown, they can they can live on their own.
Meanwhile, the Executive Director of Free Child Uganda, Timothy Opobo, urged law enforcers to implement the laws protecting children against any abuse.
The law enforcement has done something, but it has not done enough. If you have laws which as a country we are rich in, the law must do three things. The law must prevent, so it should prohibit people from doing. But many people don't even know these laws. That's one. The second is that the law must punish. It's punitive. It must punish those who are actually breaking the law. Now, we know that if you measure the cases against the punishment, they don't tally. To bite is for the law to actually bite, to have more people who are responsible for these heinous crimes brought to book. If we see more people being punished, I can assure you we shall see a decrease in these cases of abuse of children.
Everyone has a role to play when it comes to parenting on the future children that the country deserves. Until parents change their attitude towards children, an escalation of child abuse cases will keep increasing. Shaidat Nasaku, UBC News.
The Office for Prevention of Trafficking in Persons in the Ministry of Internal Affairs is to come up with a guide for all persons seeking jobs abroad. The purpose is to stop illegal and unguided labor migration. This comes in after the ministry registered over 200 incidents of trafficking in persons from January to December 2020. Take a look.
Ministry of Internal Affairs has registered a decrease in registered incidents of trafficking in persons in 2020 compared to the numbers registered in 2019. The Deputy National Coordinator Prevention of Trafficking in Persons, Agnes Igoye, says 214 incidents were registered from January to December in 2020 compared to 252 in 2019.
So incidents of internal trafficking were highest at 118, representing 55.1%. Transnational trafficking had 93 incidents.
At the release of the report in Kampala, illegal and labor immigration was the most contributing factor to trafficking in persons, driven by the large population of unemployed youth and increased demand for same-skilled labor in countries like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Oman, and Jordan.
And the majority of the victims were recruited through deceptive means and by the use of forged documents. So some of these traffickers forged documents, not like the ones you see at passport office, but to move their victims.
Of the 482 victims of transnational trafficking, Dubai led with 257 victims, followed by Kenya with 165 victims, Saudi Arabia with 39 victims, while Oman and Abu Dhabi had 5 victims each.
Some of them were those who were returned home during lockdown prematurely because of the pandemic and returning back to work. Others are new travelers seeking jobs abroad. You all know that the pandemic hit heavily, but also economically, that many people lost jobs and they are seeking jobs abroad. But there is also demand for workers in the informal sector. That's why they are going in large numbers.
Agnes Igoye urged parents and guardians to pay attention to social media exploitation of children amidst COVID-19.
Know where your children are, know which gadgets they are having, because during lockdown or partial lockdown, there are so many idle people out there, and they are preying on our children.
Abdul Nasir Lubwama and Jen Mugisha for UBC News.
Now, the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry has banned meat in Mbarara City, which has left both locals and meat dealers complaining. The ban follows an ending spread of foot and mouth disease, coupled with now the outbreak of Rift Valley fever that has so far claimed lives in Chiruhura district. Authorities warn of the law taking its course should anybody be caught smuggling, selling or eating meat in Mbarara. We have the details.
Beef, goat's meat, mutton and pork eaters in Mbarara City will wait a little bit longer as government put a ban on meat following the continuous spread of foot and mouth disease within hooved animals.
Tewali nyama, tewali mata, tewali muzigo, akati byonna biteewo kuba nga tebitambuzibwa kuva mu tawuni y'Embarara oba okuyingira mu tawuni y'Embarara.
The outbreak of Rift Valley fever lately in the neighboring district of Chiruhura that claimed lives also contributed to the ban on meat and other related animal products. No butcher in Mbarara is selling meat. The city abattoir have also been closed with immediate effect. Some of the meat dealers decry that this has been their only source of income. Now with the closure, they will have to live a difficult life. The ban of meat in Mbarara comes at a time when the locals are struggling to make ends meet due to the lockdown that was imposed on them in a move to deter the spread of COVID-19. Local governments have equally been affected due to lack of local revenue that would be generated from animal sales.
We are supposed to collect the local revenue of almost 2.5 billion. But as we talk now, there is nothing we are getting from our markets, from the loading sites, because cattle are not moving.
Dr. Amanyire Moses, the Mbarara City veterinary officer, says this disease have continuously spread over due to the ignorance of the farmers. Amanyire says majority of the farmers have since embarked on self-medicating their animals without diagnosis and following the prescription of the vet doctors. With this, some farmers still blame government for failure to vaccinate wild animals in Lake Mburo National Park, where majority think it's the source of this infectious disease.
At times, our cattle move there, they are not vaccinated, and they get virus from there to this side.
Government recently launched a vaccination plan, but it's yet to commence in the affected areas within a dry cattle corridor.
Mbarara City, officially a vegetarian city. UBC News Tonight takes a short break, but we'll return after these messages.
Today in history.
It was on 15th June 1975, on the orders of then Uganda's president, General Idi Amin Dada, that Dennis Hills, a British author, was released from prison in Uganda. In his book, The White Pumpkin, Hills had referred to Idi Amin as a dictator, a black Nero, and a village tyrant, which led to his arrest in April 1975 and was charged with espionage and sedition. Later, Idi Amin refused appeals for forgiveness by the Queen. However, Hills was released and allowed to return to the UK following the intervention of the British government on 15th June 1975.
Fellow Ugandans.
Ugandans, you know that the current COVID-19 period is a trying time in our lives. However, we still have another threat that has been with us for a long time, and it is called neglected tropical diseases, also known as NTDs. NTDs include bilharzia and worms that cause swollen stomachs. Trachoma causes blindness, and elephantiasis causes the swelling of legs. These diseases are affecting millions globally, and yet they can be prevented by regular hand washing with soap and clean running water, regular washing of the face with a soap and clean running water, keeping dirty hands away from your eyes, always using pit latrines, and discouraging open defecation in your community to avoid flies that carry germs, reporting to the health facility early when feeling unwell. Remember to stay safe and protect yourself. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from a SEN project.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back from that break. Now into our business news this evening. An operation to kick out traders and vendors who have failed to heed to the COVID-19 set SOPs by the Ministry of Health has entered the second day in Chikubo Business Center, with KCCA law enforcers taking lead. Besides getting the vendors and traders out, the operation also is anchored on decongesting the crowded Chikubo Business Center lane. The raging operation is not sparing any in breach of the SOPs. However, the affected vendors say the operation and evictions are going to affect their sales and lives, given the fact that many of them were just emerging from the economic miseries of the first lockdown.
In our bulletin last night, we showed the story of KCCA enforcement team working hand in hand with police, pushing out to traders and vendors from Chikubo Business Center with the aim of decongesting the business lane that had turned out to a death trap and a medium of transmitting COVID-19. Some of the vendors welcomed the idea, though the medium impact of the operation on their businesses and lives was not forethought in the short run. The spokesperson of KCCA, Daniel Nue Abine, in an interview with UBC TV, clearly explained that the significance of the operations was to reduce the spread of COVID-19 emerging from gatherings, and he promised to carry out numerous operations within the city.
These trade in the road and limit the space of movement, and as they limit the space of movement, we find that there is a lot of shoulder rubbing, there's a lot of, there's so many packed people in one area.
Following his assurances to the defiant traders and vendors, the operation today entered the second day, with the KCCA law enforcers not sparing anyone who had downplayed the Monday KCCA directive to vendors to vacate the Chikubo Business Center lane. The operation also found its way into shopping arcades, where reports have revealed the breach of the COVID-19 standard operating procedures set by Minister of Health. KCCA enforcers had difficult moments to push the vendors out of the congested corridors. The vendors were left with no option but to proceed to the pressure mounted on them. The operation didn't leave out those who had tents, tarpaulins, umbrellas, and stores on the verandas and corridors of Chikubo. In the running battles, some traders captured in camera could not wait to get in close range with the KCCA enforcement team. Some decided to cover up their stalls, however declared the rent fee they had just paid to landlords.
kyokka batugala gavumenti tevaayo kwogera ku bananyini bizimbe okitegeera bano abakyati bano baleeta okuba nti ebintu birala wakati wekkubo nga we mulina otambulira bino bivaawo naye bano bali ku maduuka ku bisale by'amaduuka basanga beesulamuko ku mabanga beesulamabanga bakola emirimu gyabwe. Abaana tubalina bali waka balina okulya okitegeera mama wange kati essaawa eno emidaala egyaffe gyewa space tulina distance ewaka bamanja emyezi egyo kyokka batugobaganya social distancing mask tuteekako buli kimu waneeno olaba.
Talking to traders who were forced to vacate verandas and corridors, some were not pleased with the operation.
Balabira ku display n'akyama n'agula. Kati ebiseera ebisinga kati ffe bananyini maduuka ffe ababeera bananyini display z'ebweru.
Naye okusinziira ku mbeera bw'ebeera naawe ow'edduuka kikuwaliriza okujja ebintu mu dduuka naawe okompitinge n'abatembeeyi.
Tubadde tufuna ow'edduuka n'akuwa ka space n'omuwayo kw'omuwadde naye n'omuli living okuva ku badeni ya rent gw'asasula.
Following the operation, UBC TV managed to revisit traders in Chikubo to ascertain whether traders and vendors had moved out of the Chikubo lane. However, the place was full to capacity with the traders. Although the issue of washing hands at the entrance of Chikubo was key. Bashiru Muwonge, chairman Shauriako B, commonly known as Chikubo, urged the KCCA to have a dialogue with LOCs and leaders of arcades to find a better solution to the glaring challenge of the congested Chikubo.
Yate tulina okujjukira nti bano abantu betuleetamu enteekateeka ezo bantu baffe bannayuganda era buvunaanyizibwa bwaffe nga gavumenti okuteekateekera abantu bano tukolere wamu okulaba nti tumobilizinga abantu bonna okubasomesa butya bwe basobola okuyita mu mbeera ya korona nga weebali bakola emirimu gyabwe.
Kati osuubira ffe tugenda kudda wera obumenyi bw'amateeka bujja kweyongera mu kibuga.
Ivan Juko, Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Now to international news. Hospitals in Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, are overwhelmed by a rise in COVID-19 infections. President Felix Tshisekedi said this on Saturday as the country was hit by a third wave of the disease. Details.
The DRC is currently battling the third wave of COVID-19 infections. Health officials say the Delta variant that was first detected in India has been spreading fast across the capital, Kinshasa. The rise in cases has overstretched hospitals around the city. Many of them are ill-equipped to deal with the increasing number of patients.
We have been recording more than 200 COVID-19 cases in Kinshasa on a daily basis. The numbers have really shot up. Hospitals are only treating emergency cases.
Health officials have registered more than 35,000 COVID-19 cases across the DRC since the pandemic began in March last year, but 25,000 of them have been recorded in Kinshasa. The situation has been worsened by people's laxity in observing health measures aimed at preventing the spread of the coronavirus. President Felix Tshisekedi said he is considering taking drastic measures to limit the spread of the disease. The DRC delayed its vaccination campaign in March this year over fears about side effects caused by the AstraZeneca vaccine. It rolled out its vaccination campaign in April, but there has been a low uptake of the AstraZeneca jab. Only 33,000 people have been vaccinated out of a population of over 80 million people so far.
All right, now UBC News Tonight comes to an end, but we will bring you more stories in our 10 o'clock bulletin that is on UBC News at 10. For now, take good care of yourself and see you at 10 o'clock. I'm Lorraine Masika Kazimoto and Elizabeth Nakakoni on Sign Language.
The family of Mr. and Mrs. Alunyu Frederick Ogwal of Gulu City, with deep sorrow, announces the untimely death of their father Alunyu Frederick Ogwal, who passed away on 8th June 2021 from St. Martha's Hospital, Lakar, Gulu. Mr. Frederick Alunyu Ogwal was a retired civil servant, politician and a banker. He will be buried scientifically following the SOPs put in place by the government of the Republic of Uganda on the 19th June 2021 at his ancestral home in Omunya Ward, Adieda Parish, Bobi Sub-County, Omoro District off the Gulu-Kampala Highway. Informed are the Speaker of Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, members of Parliament, political and religious leaders, Major General Ben Francis Okello, the board, staff and management of UBC, the staff and management of Gulu High School, the staff and management of Gulu University, the staff and management of Sacred Hearts Minor Seminary, Lakar, the staff and management of World University Service of Canada, Uganda, the staff and management of Mulago Hospital, the staff and management of Christ the King Teachers College, Gulu, the board staff and management of Centenary Bank, the staff and management of DFCU Bank, relatives, friends, and in-laws. May his soul rest in eternal peace.